cheating the system, new evidence that President Trump may have obstructed justice, and this in a whole new way. Let me explain. The New York Times reporting that President Trump tried to derail the federal investigation into his former fixer, Michael Cohen. How? By pressuring then acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker to put a Trump supporter and former transition advisor in charge of it. Someone who Trump may have thought would have kept him in the clear. Now, let's be clear. This is an explosive charge, and the president knows it. Tonight, moving quickly to deny the charge.
Did you ask Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker to change the leadership of the investigation into your former personal attorney, Michael Cohen?
No, not at all. I don't know who gave you that. Just more fake news. There's a lot of fake news out there. It
was quite a pause there, wasn't it? And then the old fake news excuse. Just to be clear about this, the U.S. attorney that Trump reportedly wanted in charge of the Cohen case is a guy named Geoffrey Berman. He is a Trump supporter. He donated $5,400 to the Trump campaign. He served in the Trump transition. And even over at Fox News, a friend of the president says that if these charges are true, that Trump tried to put Berman in charge of the Cohen investigation, this is bad.
Would that be obstruction?
Yes. It would be attempted obstruction.
Attempted obstruction. According to the Times, there's no evidence that Whitaker actually went through with this because Berman actually had already recused himself from the Cohen investigation. But the thing is, Whitaker knows that being pressured by the President of the United States to put a supporter of his in charge of a criminal case that may involve the president is a huge problem. But under oath, Whitaker denied he had ever been pressured by Trump to interfere with an investigation. Here he is in his own words.
At no time has the White House asked for, nor have I provided, any promises or commitments concerning the special counsel's investigation or any other investigation.
Tonight, that answer is under scrutiny by House Democrats for possible perjury. Pamela Brown is out front live outside the White House. And Pamela, the president knows this is a huge charge and this would possibly be obstruction in a whole new way. There was that long pause we heard when he was asked about it. And then, of course, he went back to the fake news crutch. He's trying to deny it.
Yeah, that's right. You heard the question asked to him, and he, after he paused, denied that he ever made this ask of former AG Matt Whitaker to have the U.S. Attorney Geoffrey Berman unrecuse and oversee the Cohen probe. Now, this denial is in response to this New York Times reporting today that, in fact, he did make that ask because he viewed Berman as an ally. But sources tell me and my colleague Laura Jarrett that the president was upset about the Cohen probe, his former fixer, and how it implicated him in the payments to two women during the election, and that he did fume to Matt Whitaker about it over the phone. The president thought that Whitaker should do a better job controlling the investigators in the probe that Whitaker oversaw as acting attorney general. And if you read that Justice Department statement carefully, there isn't a denial that President Trump and Whitaker discussed the SDNY probe. And during recent congressional testimony, Whitaker would only say he wouldn't discuss conversations with the president when he was asked whether he did speak to him about the SDNY investigation. In contrast, he told the committee he never spoke about the Mueller probe to President Trump. So you look at the comparison, how he answered those two questions about the Mueller probe, saying that he never talked about it with Trump, compared to SDNY, saying he's not going to talk about those conversations. But this latest reporting, Aaron, about Trump fits into this pattern where he believes officials in the Justice Department roles should show loyalty to him and do his bidding. As you'll recall, the president was furious when former AG Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Russia probe, and he never got over it. Aaron?
He certainly never did. Of course, is still taking opportunities to take shots at him now that he's gone. Thanks very much, Pamela. Yep. And out front now, I want to go to Jack Weiss, former federal prosecutor and former Democratic member of the Los Angeles City Council, Carrie Cordero, former counsel to the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security, and David Gergen, former presidential advisor to 4 presidents. Jack, if the president pressured his attorney general at the time, Matt Whitaker, to put a Trump supporter, Trump donor, Trump transition advisor in charge of the Michael Cohen criminal case, is that obstruction of justice?
It is. And I think it is because the stakes here, the criminal stakes for Trump, are much higher, arguably, than in the Mueller case. Because here you have Michael Cohen, who knows where all the dirty laundry is, where all the bodies are buried inside Trump Tower, the Trump family, Trump business dealings, every crooked land deal, every bit of money laundering they did for a Russian oligarch who bought a condo in Florida. Everything the Trumps did wrong, or may have done wrong before Trump was elected to office, Michael Cohen has been singing about. And that has Trump petrified. That's why, if we believe what the New York Times reported, and I do because my guess is Matthew Whitaker told someone at the Justice Department, hey, Trump asked me to do something about Berman. What do I do? If it's correct, then I think it's potentially devastating for Trump.
Potentially devastating, Carrie?
It certainly is. I mean, look, in terms of his political exposure, I think it is. It's not clear that he would be charged because Justice Department policy says that he wouldn't actually be charged. But I think this is now the third investigation that has been revealed that he tried to obstruct. The first was the Michael Flynn case when he asked former Director Comey if he could make the case go away. The second was the overall Russia investigation, and we can look to the firing of Director Comey and a whole host of other activities and pressure that the president placed on investigators and Justice Department officials to try to make that investigation go away. And then this would be the third investigation, if the allegations are true, that the president tried to replace the leadership with the goal of making the investigation go away or be limited or be cabined or stay away from any exposure that he might have in it.
So, David Gergen, the Times also, reports, as Pamela was talking about, the president's desire for loyalty and his feeling, that everybody around him should be loyal to him. The Times quotes Mr. Whitaker saying, quote, this is the quote from the article, I'm sorry. He privately told associates that part of his role at the Justice Department was to, and here's the quote from Whitaker, jump on a grenade for the president. David, is that the role of the Attorney General?
It has never been in the past. At least it certainly hasn't been when the government has conducted itself honestly and with integrity. I think here, Aaron, listen, if the report is correct, and I'm assuming that it probably is correct because it's a very, very thorough piece. It's got 4 names on it from the New York Times. I just don't think they would go with this kind of story unless they were very confident. But still, people have to be brought in and testify under oath. Because what you see happening here with Whitaker and with the president is they may be very carefully parsing what happened. Let's say the president called and said, Matt, would you consider the possibility of Berman? Just explore it and get back to me. The president can say, I never asked. He just simply suggested. I never asked. And we have Whitaker's issued a statement saying he doesn't address the question of whether he was asked or even whether he got a call. He simply says, I was never pressured. It might have been a suggestion, but I was never pressured and I made no commitments. That's what he said now under oath to the House and what he said here publicly. And for most Americans, that kind of call from the President of the United States would look like an ask.
Yes, I mean,
but
this
if
is
you've
the
got clever lawyers, if you got lawyers who are cleverly saying no, or formulate it this way, he could say, look, I'm telling the truth. He never asked.
Carrie, what's the standard here for obstruction? I mean, because I think as David's saying, yes, we all would know getting a call like that, especially from someone like Donald Trump, I've been on the receiving end of a phone call from him once years ago when he wanted me to come over and do something with the Apprentice taping, the timing of taping, and the guy wouldn't give up, right? I mean, he wanted something and he wanted something. This is the President of the United States we're talking about now. There is no such thing as just a suggestion that isn't pressuring, is there, when it comes to obstruction?
Well, the key with obstruction is it is an intent crime. So the prosecutors, if a obstruction case were prosecuted, they'd have to show that the individual had corrupt intent. Again, the president isn't probably going to be charged with obstruction given DOJ policy, but it certainly is something that Congress should look at from the perspective of are now 3 cases that he potentially has tried to obstruct, and those are impeachable offenses.
Jack, obviously we're talking about, right, but he ordered Robert Mueller to be fired back in 2017, right? There was that, right? There's the possible role in the Jim Comey firing, and he has said before, Jack, that he will get involved if he needs to in these investigations. Here he is.
What's happening is a disgrace. And at some point, I wanted to stay out, but at some point, if it doesn't straighten out properly, I want them to do their job, I will get involved.
Impeachable, Jack, what we're now seeing when you look at the pattern and this latest report?
I think it's indictable, and I think once he's out of office, he likely will be indicted for this conduct because the statute of limitations on this runs for another 5 years. Look, he's not a subtle guy. And whatever he said to Matt Whitaker, I would be shocked and amazed if it was subtle. What Congress needs to do now is get to the bottom of it. And when they get to the bottom of it, my suggestion would be this new Congress needs to end the practice of having members ask the questions. The Democratic Congress needs to hire professional prosecutors to put witnesses under oath and under professional examination so you won't end up with this sort of parsing defense that perhaps Matthew Whitaker has based on the clip you saw a few moments ago.